I want y'all to ask yourself some very simple questions. Who does it benefit that the black community stays divided? Who does it benefit if black men and black women stay attacking each other? Who does it benefit if Africans and African Americans divide themselves from each other? Who does it benefit the young YNs if the young YNs stay unaliving each other in the streets?
Hello guys, welcome once again to the channel. I hope wherever you are, you're having a great time. Now for years, we have seen how Western media has been used to create divisions among black people. And one would ask themselves, who benefits when blacks are divided? You've seen storylines like blacks in the United States are hated by Africans. And that begs the question, who knew or who investigated this hate and know that Africans ever hated black Americans? And this is something that has been championed by the media that has created false narratives and has created divisions within black people. I think this is how Western media survives. They want to create enmity between two brothers and sisters so that they don't work together and achieve what they can achieve through their togetherness. And one thing is common. The white elite has really used this divide and conquer narrative to ensure that they have hold of our growth and our development. That is why even if you look at Africa, it is not free. That is why even if you look at Africa, most of our resources are held by whites. You find that white corporations are the ones that control mineral resources in Africa. They're the ones that control how businesses are done and conducted in Africa. If you look at most infrastructural development programs, they are being done by Western companies. So if you look at this in a deeper way, you'll be able to see that blacks did not just start talking about this division or this hatred out of nowhere. It is something that the Western people have always used to ensure that hatred exists between black people. I came across a clip here of a black guy asking one pertinent question, that who stands to benefit when blacks are separated? Who stands to benefit when blacks cannot stand together? I wanted to take a listen to this clip and others that I came across, then we shall talk in the end. Let's watch.
I want y'all to ask yourself some very simple questions. Who does it benefit that the black community stays divided? Who does it benefit if black men and black women stay attacking each other? Who does it benefit if Africans and African Americans divide themselves from each other? Who does it benefit the young YNs if the young YNs stay unaliving each other in the streets? Who does it benefit if black people continuously participate in white created systems, whether it be political, economical, institutional, religiously? Who does this benefit the most? Because it damn sure ain't us. I would think that these type of things would be common sense, that we continuously obsess over participating in things that have already shown and expressed themselves to be anti-black, anti-us. You go down there to vote, we get nothing in return. You patron all of these designer stores, you buy all of these shoes, these designer bags and watches, you get your lashes done from the Asians, you work for the whites and refuse to work for anybody black. Who does this mindset benefit the most? This is not rocket science. You all want change. It's very simple. As a collective, when we get to a point where we refuse to attack black men, where we refuse to disrespect black women and attack black women, when we refuse to allow our children to be bullied in the streets on their way to schools by gangs, when we refuse to allow YNs to unalive each other, when we refuse to participate in any white created systems in America without any real representation, without any real benefit, then we can make some progress. Until then, we're just going to keep running in circles, over and over and over again, in circles. Oh, it's going to be a maze over and over and over again. And the place you start is the same place you're going to finish, because everybody is running from the same thing, your fear of defending yourself.
White supremacy was never just about racism. It was engineered as a system of mass control, with racism serving as its most visible tool. Historically, this reveals itself in insidiously calculated ways. For one, slavery's racial divide. While poor whites in colonial America initially bonded with enslaved Africans, the elites invented the white identity to split the alliance, offering psychological wages of whiteness, which was basically better treatment but minor privileges, to ensure class solidarity was impossible. Racism here wasn't the goal, it was the method to prevent unified revolt. Another example is colonial divide and rule. British colonizers in Africa and India amplified religious and ethnic tensions, like Hindu versus Muslim or Tutsi versus Hutu, to destabilize resistance. The infamous pencil test under apartheid South Africa assigned racial categories to fracture families and communities, not because elites cared about purity, but because fractured groups are easier to exploit. The prison industrial complex. Modern mass incarceration uses drug laws to target Black and brown communities. Not because police genuinely believe in racial inferiority, but because criminalization creates a permanent underclass that depresses wages for all workers, justifies bloated police budgets, which is social control, and distracts from elite theft. Social media profits by inflaming racial tensions. Facebook's own studies proves that it boosts angry content because outraged people don't organize effectively. The DEI backlash. Recent attacks on diversity programs aren't about merit, but about reinstating a hierarchy where elites of any race monopolize power while the masses fight over crumbs. Billionaires buy bunkers and buy New Zealand citizenship while flooding media with overpopulation myths, blaming Black and POC birth rates for ecological collapse. They're not racist. They're using racism to justify hoarding resources. The pattern is clear. Racism is the theater, but control is the mission. Every time we're tricked into blaming another marginalized groups instead of the elites, white supremacy wins. Don't forget to leave a comment if this opened your eyes. Share this with someone who really needs to hear it. And follow me at Boomy So Supreme, previously known as Supreme Ting. I recently changed my username. I'm going for a more personalized brand. I don't think I've ever said my name on this social media account, but if you guys don't know, my name is Boomy. And yeah, Boomy out.
It's time to stop falling for the trick. Most people have never heard of this quote from President Lyndon B. Johnson, but it might be one of the most honest things any U.S. president has ever said about racism. He said, if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you. Now, LBJ wasn't talking about feelings. He was exposing a system. It's a psychological trick that has been used for centuries to convince poor white Americans into supporting policies that harm them. Racism has always served as a distraction, a smokescreen. While the working class is taught to resent or fear Black people, immigrants, or marginalized communities, they completely overlook the real cause of their suffering: the wealthy elite robbing them blind. This tactic still works today. Just look at what's happening right now. Republicans recently passed a massive domestic policy mega bill loaded with tax breaks, not for everyday people, but for billionaires, venture capitalists, private schools, and even rum manufacturers, all while slashing social programs, blocking healthcare access, and attacking public education. But instead of demanding answers or change, many working class white Americans are being told that the problem is wokeness, DEI programs, immigration, or Black history. That's not an accident, that's strategic. The goal is to keep people emotionally enraged and racially divided, so they never organize around their shared economic interest. That's the real con. Racism isn't just about hate, it's about control. And as long as people keep falling for it, they'll keep voting against their own future. Not because they're evil, though many of them are, but because they've been lied to. And think about it, the lie has been profitable for the people lying to them in broad daylight. So next time someone just tries to tell you that racism is just a cultural issue, just remember it's actually an economic tool used to divide the working class, destroy solidarity, and keep power in the hands of a few.
We use the word divide and conquer often. Not all of us understand just how deep the psychology of divide and conquer went. At its core, divide and conquer works by creating artificial distinctions amongst oppressed or subjugated groups. It allocates differential privileges to make one group feel superior over the other. And importantly, it instills competition, mistrust, and dependence on the dominant group, in this case whiteness, for status and survival. And we have seen it the world over under British colonial rule of India, between the Hindus and the Muslims, in Rwanda between the Hutus and the Tutsis under Belgian rule, in South Africa between colored, black, Indian people under apartheid, and even in the Caribbean in the US between house enslaved people and field enslaved people. And the psychological consequences of this is big. It creates internalized hierarchy and affects our aspirational identity. Frantz Fanon says it in Black Skin, White Masks. He writes about colonized people adopting language, mannerisms, and ideals of a colonizer for survival, but also as a form of alienation. He calls it epidermalization of inferiority. And in a divide and conquer system, the slightly privileged group may internalize their supposed superiority over the group below them. They aspire to the lifestyle, values, or approval of, in this case, whiteness. They police boundaries between themselves, and they even police the group they deem lower than them harsher than the dominant group does, or than the oppressor does. And this is exactly what apartheid designed for colored communities. A middle group that would guard the boundaries between whiteness and blackness without ever being allowed into whiteness. Then, of course, there's something called lateral violence, and it refers to when a group turns against one another due to limited access to power, recognition, or economic survival. Now, literature on this show that people derive self-worth from belonging to a group. And if the group is ranked, people will act to protect their group's relative position, even if it means oppressing another disadvantaged group. And in the case of apartheid, colored people were given just enough resources and symbolic elevation to see themselves as better than other black people and see them as a threat to their own relative security. And that created an enduring intergroup resentment, which is still visible today. Then there's another term called psychological splitting. And splitting is a defense mechanism where people see the world in black and white, good or bad, us versus them, especially if it's under threat. And in a divided society, those who are given marginal privileges are often forced to choose allegiance, to align upward or downward. And many resolve this tension in their heads by denying their shared oppression with the other excluded groups. And they align themselves aspirationally with the dominant group, which is in this case whiteness. And in South Africa, this often manifests in rejecting blackness by some colored people and preferring to emphasize their language, other parts of their culture, or their mixed heritage as evidence of not quite being black. Then, of course, it creates cultural amnesia and historical dislocation. A consistent theme in colonial psychology literature is the deliberate destruction or distortion of identity. Divide and conquer works best when people forget or disassociate with their history of resistance, when they stop identifying with the wider struggle for liberation, when they are fed narratives that their history is either irrelevant, shameful, or incomplete. Under apartheid, school curricula, church doctrine, and media actively erased or downplayed colored resistant heroes such as Ashley Creel, Basil February, Anton Franch, or even Kritawa's complicated history. This loss of historical lineage deepens identity confusion.
I think even if you only care about African Americans, it does not make sense to make a huge stand against immigrants, because ultimately the only people that are served by oppressing immigrants are the people at the top of the system. I think that FBA believers can absolutely acknowledge that Black people are not the ones benefiting from systemic racism. So if we as African Americans are engaging in systemic racism by oppressing or not supporting or not advocating for immigrants, particularly Black immigrants, we are going to put ourselves, we're on the same level as them already. From the perspective of up here. It's like y'all want to be like, oh, it's white people and then it's African Americans and immigrants. But to white people, we're all the same.
There were white and black indentured servants in 1619. They got along. Poor whites from England, blacks together, and when they ran away together, somebody said, that's a problem. They're getting along. We can have a class riot, we cannot have a race riot because we're the class. Sorry, we can have a race riot, not a class riot, because we're the class. So that's when they said indentured servants white, you get 2 more years, you're in charge of the blacks. Blacks, you get life, that's the beginning of slavery. There is your caste system. This, don't trust me, the word white, the racial word white is completely made up in the early 1600s. The world's 5 billion years old, people. Neanderthal life, 200 million years old. Modern life, 160 million, 200 million years old. Modern enlightenment, 6,000 years ago, 3,000 years for Jesus. But the word white was created 400 years ago, here. So that he was messed up in the head.
I watched this video of this African lady raised in Kenya education system, and she was saying how, like, growing up in the school system, they were very confused about the little bit that they taught them about Black Americans and slavery. They were so confused. And she said that they keep us ignorant to each other's suffering, Black Americans and Africans. They keep us ignorant to each other's suffering to create division. So now here we have the Africans coming over to America, and America possibly about to open up to the Africans our money, the money that belongs to Black Americans. The ignorance that they keep both parties with not understanding the other people's suffering. This lady was saying how, even when she visited America, she did not understand us because she did not understand what our ancestors have endured, some of our ancestors. Now with further education and knowledge of the American history, now she sees us. And I believe this goes on with any race, not just Africans versus Black Americans. I believe the reason we treat everyone the way we do is because we lack understanding. We lack understanding of each other. The Chinese lack understanding of the Africans. The Africans lack understanding of Black Americans. Black Americans lack understanding of islanders. Like, we all just lack understanding. We lack understanding due to our lack of proximity to one another. If we all were in more proximity to each other, if we all were closer with one another, where we shared stories, shared experiences, and brought people into our lives, we would have better understanding of each other. And we would see each other more on a human level than divided by our colors.
From the clips, you're able to see that there is a sense in which disunity among Black people has been a creation of whites. It is not innately born out of differences that occur between Black people. But there is this narrative that has been passed across to make Blacks look like they hate each other so that they don't get along. And when a story has been told for far too long, even if it is a lie, at some point it might look to a generation that did not know its beginning like the truth. And that is why you find that there are some Black Americans who can come and talk about how Blacks in Africa hate them. And that is not the case. In fact, if you're a Black person who is watching this video and you're in the United States or anywhere apart from Africa, can you choose a country of your choice and then come to Africa? See how you'll be treated. When you're in Africa, I can speak for Kenya because that's where I come from. We have no means or even ways of looking down on you. You will never experience any form of hatred. There are many Black Americans who have come to Africa, and especially in Kenya. Some of them are even buying land here, and they are living here because they find peace in living among people who look like them. When you go to the streets, you'll find almost everybody's Black. So there is no one who is going to start saying that, where are you coming from? What are you doing here? How did you arrive here? Are you a thief? Are you someone who is not good? Are you violent? Such kind of things. You are not going to experience such kind of things. And that is why I always say that being in Africa is like being in the best home that you can ever have. Divide and conquer tactic has always been used by Western nations, and especially whites, to have control over blacks and project a sense of division between black people. By fostering distrust, competition, and ideological differences within black populations, dominant groups have been able to weaken collective resistance and maintain social, political, and economic dominance. These divisions often take the form of class, colorism, ethnicity, religion, or even geographical origin, and are strategically exploited to ensure that black unity, which could threaten elite power structures, is minimized or entirely undermined. The main aim of these divisions, the main aim of people who are creating these divisions, is to have a way through which they can control black people. When you're united, you can able to dismantle the white power structures that have existed and that continue to control the world right now. But if you have an opportunity to speak about your plight, to speak in unity about the challenges you are going through, you'll be able to find strategies through which you can fight those kind of challenges. But if you are left divided and narratives are sent to you to make you look like you do not have anything that you can offer to each other, then you'll be lost. You'll not have any cause that makes you come together. And that is how these white power structures continue to hold control over our systems. A clear historical example is the use of colorism during and after slavery, especially in the Americas. Lighter-skinned black people, often the result of mixed ancestry due to rape by white slave owners, were sometimes given preferential treatment, better jobs, access to limited education, or positions of authority over darker-skinned individuals. This created a hierarchy within black communities that persists today, where lighter skin is often unfairly associated with higher status or desirability. By creating internal divisions based on appearance, white elites shifted focus away from systemic oppression and encouraged infighting among oppressed groups. That is what they use. They come and tell you, look at your skin, you see you are lighter than this other person is darker than you, and therefore you are different. We are going to treat you better than them so that you know that you are better than them. You see such kind of things. This tells you that at the end of the day, we are all working for the white power structures that have always been able to take control of our systems. And that is why we need to come together, find a strategy through which we can fight these power structures and dismantle them from the root up to where we can manage. Another example can be seen in post-colonial Africa, where colonial powers drew arbitrary national borders and empowered certain ethnic groups over others, sowing the seeds of long-lasting ethnic tensions and conflict. In Rwanda, British and Belgian colonial authorities categorized the Tutsi and Hutu populations, favoring the Tutsi minority with education and administrative roles, which laid the groundwork for future violence and civil unrest. These manufactured divisions allowed colonial rulers to manage populations more easily and ensure that effort towards united resistance were wrecked and weakened or suppressed. You see, this division that we continue preaching within ourselves, it is not meant to give us anything good. You see how they used to operate in Africa during the post-colonial era. First of all, they drew arbitrary borders and created countries out of a continent that did not have borders between itself. How on earth do you want to tell me that there is a country called Kenya when this Kenya is drawn entirely by white people without involvement of black people? The Berlin Conference did not involve any black person, but these whites partitioned Africa to allow them have control of our resources. And with these borders, they created divisions within ourselves. So we will always brag that I'm a Kenyan, I'm a Ugandan, I am a Nigerian, I am a South African, I am a Egyptian, I am from wherever you are. And then you say that you're proudly South African, you are proudly Kenyan, you are proudly Somali, you are proudly Ugandan, you are proudly Tanzanian. Why? When you are proud of the country you come from, it is a sign that you are also embracing the divisions that were created by these white power structures. And that is why a talk of a united Africa has always been suppressed. Whenever people like Colonel Muammar Gaddafi came with ideas of a United States of Africa, he was killed. He vowed to thwart Western dominance that is taking place in Africa. But he started with Libya, where he ensured that everybody in Libya got whatever they wanted. But when you come and realize what happens later, is that because he was preaching to have a United States of Africa, he did not get this opportunity. It is quite sad that this is what we have to live with, but it will reach a point where all of us must wake up and know that we have to stand up against oppressions and divisions that have been created artificially to have ourselves under control by white power structures. In modern times, economic and ideological divisions continue to be exploited. In places like the United States, black political and social movements often find themselves splintered. Whether along the lines of religion or ideology, media and political elites sometimes amplify these differences, highlighting controversial or extreme voices to portray the community as fractured and incoherent. This undermines collective action while also reducing the effectiveness of social movements and allows systemic inequalities to persist unchallenged. The white elite benefit from these divisions because they help preserve the status quo. When black communities are inherently divided, it becomes harder to organize around shared goals such as economic justice, police reforms, or equitable education. Divisions diffuse power, weaken solidarity, and allows those in control to frame themselves as neutral or even benevolent rather than oppressive. Ultimately, this strategy ensures that meaningful change is delayed or denied, and those at the top continue to profit from a system built on inequality and disunity. And if there is any game that whites have managed to win over black people, is this issue of divide and conquer strategy. They have mastered this art from the colonial times to now, from the period of slavery to now, that you find that there is a group of people who feel or even look at themselves as being better than their others. For example, you'll find a black American looking at himself and thinking that he is better than an African or a black person in Africa. There is nothing like that. These people are the same. You might be having better prospects in the United States, but an African is more free than you are. An African is less captured than you are because they come to you and your resources that you have, they take almost everything. And that is what Dr. Umar is saying. There is also that clip where a guy speaks about how if blacks were paid their reparations, white power structures would still have control of that money. So it tells you what exists in the ground. Share your thoughts down in the comment section. What do you think? Is the division that we have helping us, or it is a tool that is only helping white power structures? Share your thoughts down in the comment section. And if you're watching us for the first time, please consider subscribing to the channel, like the video, and share. Thank you, and let's meet on the next one.